29 degrees. I am going to put the tool on center, just like we do every other time. This tool also has to be on center. So I'm going to line it up with my tailstock center. Look at that. Well, that should be on center, and indeed it is. So I'm happy with that. Okay, so now what else? All right. Because it is a 60-degree tool, I have to take the tool straight in to my workpiece. So I have to make sure that tool is square to my workpiece. Obviously, I have a 60-degree tool. I don't want to take it into my workpiece like this or like this, exaggerated. I want to take it straight in. So we use a device called a center gauge to square this tool up to my workpiece. Okay? So all I do with that is the tool is on center. That everything is in order the way we're doing it here in the video. So I just take my center. Some people call it a fish gauge because it looks like a fish tail. It's called a center gauge, but a lot of people do call it a fish gauge.
What is more correct?
Well, it's a center gauge, but anyway, I see lots of journey people do call it a fish gauge. So I'm just going to turn my tool in. It is square on my workpiece on the one edge. Now I'm just squaring up my tool. And basically all I'm doing is I'm looking for that tool, that 60, to fit into this 60 degree just perfectly with no light. So I can't see any light or any cracks between the tool and the center gauge. So it's a little fiddly, if you will, but it's not too bad. All right, that looks pretty good. So now, tool's on center, the tool is set up square. I'm gonna pinch it in place. That's it, okay? We did the calculation for infeed on the cross slide. I think it was, what was it, 54 thou, I believe, wasn't it? Yeah, 54 thou. So I'm going to take my tool in and just touch it off and zero my scale here on the compound slide. Just gonna look for a little dust on the end of the tool. All right, that's good. I'm gonna zero, and that's about that. I'm gonna take it off the end. Okay, so my compound slide is zeroed. I should also zero my cross slide. Just double check. Okay, looks good. So we've got everything zero. Now we have to set the machine up for a 13 thread per inch. So I'm looking here for the number 13. And it appears to be this one, sorry, that's millimeters. Right here, C7TY. C7 TY. Well, that's how you set up for 13 threads per inch. Notice one is inches and one is millimeters. I did look at the millimeter one first, then I realized, whoop, that's millimeters. No, I better look at the inch one. 14.7 C7TY. All the other lathes are the same. There's the same sort of setup for any of the other lathes. So the fact that I'm showing you on this lathe doesn't matter. The procedure's the same on the other lathes.
Why did you move the
Oh, just to get the gears in place, Glenn. Yeah. Okay, so that should be set at 13 threads per inch. Can somebody get me a little bit of layout dye off that table there, please? I'm gonna put a little bit of layout dye on my workpiece. I'll show you why. Okay, we'll let that dry. Then I'm gonna get a thread pitch gauge. I'm double checking everything that I do because, as I said, I only want to do this once. So I want to make sure that I've got that set at the right pitch. So I'm going to grab a pitch gauge, I'm going to scratch off that layout die, and then I'm going to check it with a pitch gauge to make sure I've got my gearbox set up right. Okay? So I'm going to go in the tool crib and grab a pitch gauge. So there is. Did you put that there? Thank you. And you even selected the right leaf. Boy, you guys are the best. Don't let my dean know how easy you guys are to teach because she might cut my pay. All right? Okay. Do you want to take over, Mark? Oh, okay. All right.
Like if I could cut one, is it already cut off? Are they like pieces you want to use?
No, you'll have to. You can use any stock you want. Basically, you have to select something that's close to the final diameter. But we got lots of stock there. I just grabbed this off the shelf this morning, so. All right, so I think that's fairly dry. I have selected 13 threads per inch on the leaf. So all I'm going to do now, what am I going to do now? What I'm going to look at now is the thread dial. Okay, now I want to cut, as we said, a 13 thread per inch. Well, there's 13. And I see beside the number 13, I've got a 1, 3, 5, and 7. What that means is I engage my thread lever at the numbers 1, 3, 5, or 7. Not any of the other numbers, those 4 numbers. Okay, 1, 3, 5 for these particular lathes. Now for any of the other lathes, engage on a full number graduation, not a half number, a full numbered graduation on any of the other machines. Okay, the standard moderns or the Harrisons, except for the 2 brand new ones, they'll have a little recipe, if you will, on there like this one does, because they're the same as these lathes here. But the standard moderns engage on a fully numbered graduation every time. Okay. So we've looked that up. We can engage on a 1, 3, 5, or a 7. We are not going to engage the feed lever. We are now going to engage the thread lever or the split nut lever, okay, to cut a screw thread. Last semester, you're using the feed lever, and we're still going to use a feed lever, but just not for screw thread cutting. We're going to engage the split nut lever. Now, why do they call it a split nut lever? I might say I've used that term, so I guess I should explain it. Basically, what you've got is you've got your lead screw in the lathe, which is threaded, which is geared up to the rest of the machine. The split nut lever is hooked up to a nut, actually, that is cut in half, and when I engage the nut comes and surrounds or engages the lead screw. So when I operate that handle, that nut comes together and grabs onto that lead screw, and it's all geared up to the way we've set it here on the machine, okay? So that's why they call it a split nut lever, if you were wondering. Okay? Oh, and I like to go fairly slow when I'm screw thread cutting because there's a fair bit going on here. I don't like to lose track of what I'm doing, so I like to go fairly slow. So I'm gonna, about 125 or so, we'll try that, see how we make out. All right, so as I said, we can engage on a 1, 3, 5, or a 7. I'm going to engage on a 3. And you can see I'm just scratching the layout die, I'm going to stop my tool in the undercut. Never take your hand off the split nut lever when you're screw thread cutting. As you can see, it does travel fairly quickly, the length of your screw thread. You can run into the shoulder before you know it. So don't take your hand off that split nut lever when you're threading. So I'm going to shut that off. I'm just going to double check my pitch. This is a pitch that I've scribed into my workpiece. I'm going to see if it matches up with my pitch gauge. And look at that. You'd almost think we knew what we were doing. It does match up. So I've selected the right, made the right selection in the gearboxes. Okay? That's just a little double check. As we said, we only want to do it once. Okay, so I've made a pass. I've made a pass. Now I want to take the tool out, move it to the end, put the tool back into its start point, and then re-engage. So that's why I zeroed my cross slide. So I'm going to back it out so the tool clears the workpiece. I'm going to travel down to the end, and I'm going to set the tool back to 0. Okay. Okay. Now I haven't moved anything in on the compound slide yet, because I'm just going to make a cut and just to make sure that I haven't done anything wrong. So 1, 3, 5, or 7. I'm going to engage on a 1 this time. And look at that, it's picking up at the right spot. So indeed, yes, I am on track. Everything is good thus far. Good. So what happens sometimes is people lose track of their 0 when they're backing the cross slide out. That's what I was just double checking, that I didn't lose track of it. So again, I'm keeping my eye on the cross slide. I've almost went, well, I did go 1 revolution. So I went back to 0 again. I traveled down. Now I'll take it back into 0. And I'll give it a little feed on the cross slide. And as we know, when we hit 54 thou, we're going to check it with a nut. So I'm going to take a nice little cut of about 5 thou. I'm going to engage on a 1, 3, 5, or a 7. In this case, I'm going to engage on a 5. Looking good. Looking good. I'm going to back out. I'm going to take it back to 0. I'm going to travel, take it back in, take the tool back into its start point at 0, and cut off another 5 thou. Engage on a 1, 3, 5, or 7. I engaged on a 1 in this case, and it's cutting just fine. And that's basically it. Until you get to 54 thou, you'll grab a 1/2 inch 13 nut, try it on there, see if it works, and if it works, that's good. You maybe want to brush the thread with a wire brush or something. You may want to do a little bit of finishing like that. Depends on how your thread looks after you cut it. But I would encourage you to go fairly slow. And I would encourage you as well, let me show you one more thing. I'm going to back this out to 0. So people, as I said, sometimes lose track of where their 0 is. And I'm going to turn it back into 0, which is my original start point. There's nothing saying you can't engage the tool, you know, a fair distance from the workpiece, because sometimes people don't quite hit the engagement here. So I sometimes will engage a little further out from my workpiece just in case I don't quite hit the number. Then I can disengage and then try it again and try to hit the right number. You see, 1, 3, 5, or 7. Let's just say, oh, I didn't quite hit it, so I can shut it off. I haven't cut anything yet. All right, well, let's try that again. Here comes the 3. I'll engage on a 3. Okay. So as we can see, it does travel fairly fast. So yes, you can engage a little further out from the workpiece. So as I say, the common mistakes, people lose track of their zero. And another common mistake is people engage too close to the workpiece and don't quite hit the number. So those are the two main mistakes that people will often make. If you don't make those mistakes, you're probably going to be done this in no time. So this is the thumb screw. As I said, first of all though, of course, you will knurl it. That'll be your first operation, and then we're just going to cut the screw thread. So basically, it is a number of procedures. We got to move the cross slide, we got to move the compound slide, we got to engage the split nut lever on a specific graduation, we got to set up the gearboxes. So there's a fair bit going on here. That's why I like to go slow, think about every step, and hopefully you'll be successful. We're going to post this video on Blackboard. Glenn Dayton's the videographer. Dr. Dayton is the videographer, and we're going to post this on Blackboard for you to reference. So I think that's a good idea. Maybe we'll do that with some more of our projects as well. Okay? Any questions? Any questions? You may have questions when you start, and that's okay. That's why I'm here. So that's the procedure. This is a mandatory project. We must cut a screw thread this semester. As I said, the other three, you can choose 2 of the other 3 projects for your final marks. Okay? So that's it. That's all I have to say about that. Good luck. I'm here. If you have any questions, be sure to ask. Okay?